For question 6, we'll do ICF again. So if we look at instruction, the instruction, I'll put in red, is to calculate. So when I ask you to calculate, you have to also show your workings. Okay, so that's the instructions. When we look at context, it's based on this design and menswear. And again, it gives you data, which is context. And if we look at focus, then we can see that, again, it had fixed costs. We need to know about selling price. It's got variable costs and an average selling price. So when we have a look at what these theories mean, or these focus areas, fixed cost, remember, is not dependent on output. It has to be paid regardless of how much you produce. So examples being, it could be rent. So if you're renting a property, within that first month, you might not have even produced anything, but you've started that contract, you've created that contract. It might be, for example, a 12-month rental, and for those 12 months, it doesn't matter if you produce lots more, the more successful you are, or if you experience difficulties and you have to produce less, it doesn't matter. You have to pay what has been agreed within that rental agreement. So therefore, it's a fixed cost. When we look at average selling price, again, we have to consider, why do we need to know the average selling price? And why do we need to know how many items that they have sold? So that relates to output, and price, which relates to revenue. And revenue is simply the income from sales. It doesn't consider costs at all, it's just the income that comes in from sales. And we think about variable costs. The variable cost is the cost of production. So for example, the menswear, it might be the garments or clothes, it might be the cotton, it might be the raw materials that are needed within this production. So the first thing I'm going to do, and this will get me 1 mark because it's the first part of the calculation, is I need to know the total revenue. So what I do is I get the £80 of how much they're selling each a garment of clothing, or whatever it might be in terms of the item, and I times it by the output, which they're hoping to sell 8,000 items. So it's £80 times 8,000, and that will get me a price revenue of 640,000. So that will get me 1 mark. So the next part of this calculation, I have to think about the total variable costs, and that's the variable cost times the output. Now this question has made it a little bit more challenging because it's saying variable costs were 2/5 of the average selling price. So what I would do is I'll turn the 2/5 into a decimal, and that would get me 0.4. But I need to get, remember it's 2/5 of the selling price, so I'll do 0.4 times by 80. So I'll do a step by step just to show you that. So the step-by-step approach, 2/5 equals 0.4, you just do 2 divided by 5, 0.4 times by £80, will get you £32. So the variable cost per item of clothing is £32, that's the cost of the production with the raw materials, etc. that's needed. You work out your total variable cost as from the first formula, which is variable cost times output, so £32 times 8,000, and we've got £256,000. But we haven't got our total cost yet because we also have to add fixed costs onto that. So total cost is fixed costs plus total variable costs, so it's 256,000, which is our total variable cost, plus our fixed cost of 180,000, and that gets us a total cost of 436,000. So now we're in the final part of the calculation, and that is the profit, which is revenue minus total costs. So 640,000 minus 436,000 equals 204,000. So we can see that they are making a profit.